Well, 3, 2, 1. It says I'm live, and I hope I am. You know, it's always hard when I'm first starting this to see if there's anybody out there. So if you're there, send me a little message. Let me know that you're here. Hello, everyone. It's another Facebook Live. And this week's title, I want to get the title right for you guys, is The Enemy Within. Gut bacteria can drive autoimmune disease. Oh, Wanda's there. Hello, Wanda. Oh, and you're categorized as a top fan. I don't know how you got that category, but thank you so much. You're the first one here. Thank you so much for that. Oh, here comes the list. Oh, my honey's here. Hi, honey. My lovely wife is in northern Italy. I'm in Southern California, so we can wave to each other by phone right now. That's as good as it gets. All right, Christine's here. Hi, folks. Well, it's nice to see that. Oh, Kim, thanks for the heart. Okay, so today's topic is the enemy within gut bacteria. I have to keep my foot off of the stand there, or else I'm going to rock this world too much. The enemy within gut bacteria. How it can drive autoimmune disease. So I'll just start with the basics. I'm sure most of you have heard this, some of the basics before. Terry's from Indiana. Hi, Terry. Steven's here, guys. Let me know where you're from. It's always great to see when people are here from around the country and around the world. Dorada is in New York City. Thank you so much. Wanda in, hi, Wanda. That's a hi. That's not Hawaii. That's hi. And Tarina in Spain. Tarina, hello. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. My honey misses me. Thank you. I'm going to give you a little like there for that one. Thank you. Let's start with some basics first. We know that the cells of bacteria in the gut, there are 10 times more cells of the good bacteria in the gut than all the cells in the rest of the body put together. 10 times more cells of the good bacteria in the gut. How is that possible? If you have a mile of shoreline and you want to walk the beach, and you walk the beach, you walk for a mile. But if you have a mile of shoreline, but it's not straight. There's little inlets and it comes back out, and then another inlet and it comes back out, and another inlet and it comes back out. And you walk the beach, you now are walking 1.5 miles, 1.75 miles, because there's more surface of beach that you're walking as opposed to a straight line. If you remember, your intestines are a tube. You remember this concept, like a donut? You stretch a donut out, and if you could look down the donut, that's your digestive tract. It's one big long tube. Well, the inside of the tube is lined with shag carpeting. Lots and lots of shag carpeting. That's why the surface area is so big in the intestines. And in between each of the shags of the shag carpeting is packed with thousands and thousands of bacteria, just packed in there. That's why and how there can be 10 times more cells of good bacteria than all the cells in your body put together. You know, when I first heard that, it was like, what? How is that possible? Right? And when it was explained, it just made perfect sense. Oh, okay, I get that. Just like a beach with inlets and outlets and inlets and outlets. There's more beach. There's more beach front as opposed to a straight mile of beach. So 10 times more cells of the good bacteria in our gut, and 100 to 150 times more genes in that bacteria than the human genome. The human genome's about 21,000, some people say 23,000 genes. That's our human genome. And the genes of the bacteria are over 3 million genes. Now, what's the big deal about that? Genes control function. Genes control function. Let me get some of this stuff off my computer here. It's an annoyance. Let me just get it out of the way. There we go. Okay, that's better. Genes control function. That genes determine what proteins you make and what proteins you don't make. Some of you heard me say before, for most people, it doesn't matter what their genes are. It doesn't matter if you have the genes for Alzheimer's. Doesn't matter if you have the genes for breast cancer. What matters is if those genes get expressed, if they start making proteins, if those genes start talking, if they start expressing themselves, you got a problem. So when you have the genes for a particular condition, that's the weak link in your chain. Remember, I've said before, if you pull at a chain, it always breaks at the weakest link. It's at one end, the middle, the other end. Your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidney, wherever your genetic weak link is, that's where the chain's going to break. And how does those genes express themselves? When you pull on the chain. What does that mean? When you have inflammation. Inflammation is the pull on the chain in your body. So whatever genes you have, if they're genes for conditions that we really don't want, don't pull on the chain so hard. Live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. That's why it's so important to understand about your microbiome for you, your children, your family. It's most important to understand the microbiome. Why? Because there's 100 to 150 times more gene expression in the microbiome than in the human genome. So if you've got a whole lot of undesirable bacteria in your gut, a lot of undesirable bacteria, and that bacteria is expressing itself, you might get MS. You might get rheumatoid. You might get lupus. You might get psoriasis. You might get Alzheimer's. You might get Parkinson's. It depends on where your genetic weak link is. But the bacteria, some of you have heard me say before, that it's the bacteria in our gut, it's our microbiome that has its hands on the steering wheel, steering your brain, actually steering your entire body, where your body's going. It's the microbiome that controls all of that. There are hundreds of studies, I'm not exaggerating, that come out every single week now about the microbiome. Hundreds of studies. Researchers all over the world are finding more connections between different diseases and the individual microbiome that you may have. It's just critically important. Now, I don't know if it's possible here because I'm on, Nancy's in Boulder and Lorna's in Wisconsin. Christine's also in Wisconsin. Lynn Johnson's in South Australia. Hi, Lynn. Nice to have you back again. Thank you. Glenda in Texas. I like, Kim is in Michigan. I like noticing where people are from. Judy's from Oregon and Kristen's from Pennsylvania. Tracy's in Arizona. Thank you guys. Thank you much. Debbie, British Columbia. Deborah's Arizona and South Dakota. Well, make up your mind, Deborah. Where are you? Are you in Arizona or are you in South Dakota? Maybe you go to both once in a while. I'm just joking with you. I want to share my screen, and I don't know if I can do that because I'm on Chrome. I don't know if I can do that. Let me just hit a button here to see. I don't know if I can do that because I want to show you a bunch of studies, but if I can't show you the studies, I'll at least read you the titles of the studies. So I'm going to let my honey look and see if I can share screen, and if not, honey, just let me know. David Hart. Hi, David. Nice to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here. Karen's in Ontario. Carmelia's in Quebec. Gabriella's in Peru. Hello, Gabriella. Thank you so much for tuning in. So this concept of the microbiome, it's just so critically important. Some of you have heard me say if there's only one thing, one area of your body you're going to work on, only one. Look, I'm just going to take some nutrition. I'm just going to work on one thing. What is it? Always, it's your microbiome. Nothing has more impact on the rest of your body than your microbiome. And I'm going to talk to you about how do you build a good microbiome, but I want to first give you some of these studies that I've pulled up. Margie says, I've received your new book. I have scleroderma and love your work. I'm trying to heal with your ideas and great writing. Oh, thank you, Margie. Thank you. You go, girl. You just go to it. You'll be happy that you did. Kin's here says, still no mention of a Scrabble word. I really love your talks, even though I should be in bed by now. Well, hang on, Kin. We'll only be on for another 40 minutes or so. Brian's in Leduc, Canada, Alberta, Canada. Mia's in North Wales. Hi, Mia. Thank you for joining. It's late there. Thank you so much. And Denise in Illinois and Jackie in Chicago. It's so great. Thank you, guys. It just makes me happy to know that people all over the world are listening to this. Ginny asked, what about celiac disease? Oh, absolutely, Ginny. There are so many studies on the microbiome. And see, about a third of the population has the genes for celiac disease. And everybody in the world eats wheat. So they're eating wheat, and a third of the population has the genes, but only 1%, depending, some countries it's 4%, get celiac disease. What's wrong with that? I mean, how is that possible? And that's a really good question. That's a good question you asked, Ginny, because that relates to all autoimmune diseases. How is it you get MS? How is it that you get rheumatoid? It's called loss of oral tolerance. And the one disease that more research has been done on than any other in terms of what's the mechanism and how does it come about is celiac disease. So we know a lot about autoimmunity because of the thousands of studies that have looked at celiac disease, literally thousands, 23, 24,000 now. Excuse me, guys, I got to blow my nose. Sorry, I'm fighting a little thing here. It's almost gone, but not quite yet. So celiac disease is a really good one to talk about because it relates to MS, it relates to rheumatoid, it relates to psoriasis, it relates to vitiligo, that's when you get white spots on your skin. It relates to alopecia, that's when you're losing your hair. This mechanism is the same for all diseases. And what is the mechanism? The category, the concept is called loss of oral tolerance. So what happens is that no human can digest wheat completely. That's just a given. There are enough studies on that now. We know no human can digest wheat, and it causes intestinal permeability in everyone. But the fastest growing cells in the body are the inside lining of your gut. Every couple of days, 3 to 5 days, you have a new lining to your gut. So you eat toast for breakfast, you tear the lining of your gut, but it heals. You eat a sandwich for lunch, you tear the lining of your gut, but it heals. You eat pasta for dinner, you tear the lining of your gut, but it heals. Croutons on your salad, a cookie. Your thyroid medication has gluten in it. Your lipstick may have gluten in it. You're exposed to wheat day after day, multiple times a day, every day, and you tear the lining of the gut, but it heals. You tear the lining of the gut, but it heals. You tear the lining of the gut, but it heals. You tear the lining of the gut, but it heals. You get my point? And then one day, you don't heal anymore. And scientists call that loss of oral tolerance. Loss of oral tolerance. A paper just came out recently that compared ancient strains of wheat to the hybrid strains of wheat. And the hybrids are worse, but the ancient strains are just as bad in terms of causing tears in the lining of the gut and an intolerance to the food. So we keep having it day after week, after month, after year, and then one day you just lose tolerance. It can be when you're 2 years old, 22 years old, or 92 years old. It doesn't matter. It happens, the day it happens, you now don't heal. When you don't heal anymore, you get, it's called pathogenic intestinal permeability, the leaky gut. And now, when the lining of the gut tears, now these bigger molecules get into the bloodstream before they're supposed to. Most of you have heard me say this before, that the reason your gut's 20, 25 feet long is because it takes a long time to break down prime rib compared to a banana. And so you've got to, because only really small molecules, the lining of the tube going all, remember you're looking down the donut, the lining of the tube is lined with cheesecloth. And you tear the cheesecloth, but it heals. You tear the cheesecloth, but it heals. You tear the cheesecloth, but it heals. The purpose of the cheesecloth is to only let really small molecules get through. Prime rib takes longer to break down, so it's got to go further down the track, being broken down smaller and smaller and smaller by enzymes until each amino acid breaks off, and that's small enough to go right through the cheesecloth. But when you lose oral tolerance, you tear the lining of the gut, you don't heal. Now the bigger molecules get through into the torn lining of the gut into the bloodstream. That's called leaky gut or pathogenic intestinal permeability. These bigger molecules get through, and your brain says, whoa, what's this? This isn't supposed to be here in the bloodstream. General. And in your immune system, you've got Army, Air Force, Marine Corps generals sitting around with nothing to do. General, you now are General Prime Rib. Take care of this. And now you make antibodies to these big molecules of prime rib that got through, or to tomatoes, or to broccoli, or to basil, or to oranges, or to strawberries. Doesn't matter. If the molecule of food, the macromolecule, gets through the tears in the cheesecloth before it's been broken down small enough to be a food source, that macromolecule, that big molecule, triggers an immune system response. Now you got these food sensitivities, and I'll talk about those in a minute. So what causes that loss of oral tolerance? How is it? Some people at 2 years old, some kids are, well, every newborn child has severe permeability. That's part of being a fetus in the womb. They all have permeability. That's normal. But when they're born, the first food they get is colostrum. And that's mother's breast milk. The first 3 to 5 days is not breast milk, it's colostrum. Why? Because colostrum sends the messages down to the gut, turning on the genes. Okay, let's heal those tight junctions now. No more permeability. You're out in the world now. You're going to get real food soon. Now, the first food is going to be mom's milk. Very easy for you to digest, but we got to heal those gut borders now. So every newborn baby has severe intestinal permeability. That's normal. But they heal really quickly because colostrum turns those genes on to heal quickly. What do you think happens to babies that aren't breastfed at birth? They don't heal. They don't have healing of the normal intestinal permeability. So they've got intestinal permeability. And those that are fed cow's milk, which is 8 times, the protein molecule is 8 times the size of human breast milk protein, or goat's milk, the molecule is 6 times the size of human breast milk, or soy milk. These foods that are not, the baby is not ready for this stuff, but here's the thing, for those of you that had to use one of those substances, my eldest child, my daughter, who is now 38, she's not a child anymore, but when she was born, she wouldn't breastfeed. She would not, no matter what. And so we had to give her alternatives, and that was 38 years ago. And so, but she's healthy and strong and vital today. So no matter what happened initially in the birth process for your child or for you, you can heal. The fastest growing cells in the body are the inside lining of the gut. So don't worry about that if you didn't get this colostrum at birth, all right? I don't want to go down that trail right now, but I just had the thought that some of you may be thinking about that. So you get oral tolerance, and then you lose oral tolerance. You don't heal anymore. So when you have that loss of oral tolerance, and these big molecules get in, and the immune system fights these big molecules like dairy, for example, cow's milk, there's something called molecular mimicry. Some of you have heard me talk about this, that the antibodies that are going after the cow's milk protein, some of your own tissue looks a little bit like cow milk protein. As a matter of fact, it looks so much like cow's milk protein that the antibodies can attack your own tissue. That's called molecular mimicry. The molecules mimic the food that your immune system is fighting. And all pediatricians know that you avoid at all costs giving newborn babies cow's milk for the first year of life if there's a family history of type 1 diabetes. Why? Because it's very common. If you make antibodies to cow's milk, you can make antibodies to the beta cells of your pancreas. Those are the cells that make insulin. You make antibodies to the beta cells of your pancreas, attacking the beta cells. Eventually, you don't make insulin anymore. But it takes 6 years, 8 years, 10 years before you get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, because it's a slow process. The antibodies are killing off cells, but you're growing, you're making new cells. The antibodies kill off cells. Let's say, I'm going to make up a number. Let's say you've got 5,000 beta cells when you're born. I don't know how many you've got, but let's make it up. And if you make antibodies to cow's milk, those antibodies may be killing off 200 beta cells a day. But you're growing. So you 5,000, and tomorrow you're going to have 6,000, and next day you're going to have 8,000. You're growing. You're making more cells. The body is growing. The whole body grows, right? But you're making antibodies to the beta cells, so you're killing off some of them as you're making them. You're still growing though, but it takes. This is why kids get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes around the age of 6 or 8 or 10, because eventually the antibodies catch up. And they kill off so many cells that you're not making enough insulin anymore. That's molecular mimicry. And it happens for some people with type 1 diabetes because they have antibodies to milk that they never knew. And they love cheese. They just love cheese. I can't tell you how many type 1 diabetics you talk to. I just love my cheese. Well, yeah, I know, because it gives you a buzz. That's why. So that is. The loss of oral tolerance allows these big molecules to get through into the bloodstream. The result is you make antibodies to those molecules, and eventually you can have molecular mimicry with your brain or with any tissue in your body, almost any tissue. Marzi, my wife, and I, we traveled the world in 2016, 7 different countries, interviewed 85 world leaders, researchers, because I read the research papers, so I looked these guys up, and women. And then we interviewed doctors who were applying the principles, and that's how we put Betrayal together. The autoimmune disease solution they're not telling you about. Everyone should watch that. It's free. Marzi will put a link here for you for Betrayal, so you can go watch it. And you watch Betrayal, and you go, oh my God, this just makes so much sense. Because we talk about this whole process and where disease comes from. And you listen to the scientist. It's pretty cool because I know the questions to ask them because I've read their papers. And then you listen to the doctor who's using the principles that the scientist talked about. And then you listen to the patient of the doctor who reversed her MS or reversed her rheumatoid. And you get teary-eyed again and again. Anyone out there have seen this? Let me know here. Give me some hearts or something. Although I don't think I can see hearts here. I haven't seen any, so I guess I don't have any. Let me take a moment and say hi to Sarah from Saskatchewan and Lynn from Phoenix and Cheryl. Cheryl's in the house. Hi, Cheryl from Michigan. Cheryl took care of my mom for a couple of years. Thank you, Cheryl. We'll never forget that, what you did. Thank you so much. Here's a question from Sue. She says, what triggers them to express themselves? What triggers the genes to express themselves? Is it the accumulation of a lifetime of toxic chemistry produced by unexpressed thoughts and feelings? Instead of avoiding unpleasantness with others, might we avoid activation of the gene by learning to love and communicate with each other more truthfully? Oh, Sue, let me give you a high five for that. High five. If you read my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, it came out about 6 weeks ago, and Marzi will put the link here for you. If you read the book, you'll hear that there's 4 pillars that have to be looked at for any health condition. Any health condition. And I call it the pyramid of health, because there's 3 sides to a pyramid, but there's also a base. So there's 4 sides to a pyramid. The base and the 3 sides going up, right? So the base is your structure, and then the 3 sides are your biochemistry, it's what you eat and drink, the drugs and nutrition that you take. There is your spiritual or emotional, that's what you're referring to here, Sue, and there's the electromagnetic. So we have to deal with all 4 sides of the pyramid of health with any health condition, and many people have a need for the side of the pyramid that you're talking about, Sue. We live in this crazy world. By the way, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to do a little politics for a moment because I think it's so important. I hope I don't lose anyone. If I do, bless you. Um, uh, but Thomas Friedman is a writer whose writings I have respected for 20, 25 years. He's written a couple of best-selling books about historical books on the conflict, the 1967 war between Israel in the Middle East, and then about Beirut and the history going back a couple thousand years and where all this stuff comes from. And you read it and it starts to make sense how people get to where they are today, right? He's a editorial writer in the New York Times. He wrote a great piece last week about making America American again. And we're becoming so divisive, and it's my way or the highway with so many people. We don't care. So many of us don't care. We've got an administration now that mocks people, puts people down, lies and cheats. Hundreds and hundreds of lies have been published, and they're irrefutable, the lies that are coming out now. We can't have this one-sided dynamic. We're losing the values that make us a country that the whole world wants to come and live in. I'm exaggerating, not everybody, but so many people do. Look, my grandparents came through Ellis Island in 1922. I'm all for immigration, and there's a path to do it. You don't sneak into the country. You have to follow the path and go, whatever the steps are. That's my personal opinion. But the reason I'm doing all this is that, please, everyone, go out and vote. Vote to make America American again, and please read Thomas Friedman's article, New York Times, last Tuesday, Making America American Again. Please read it, and hopefully everyone will go out to vote. Okay, so Rosemary from Tampa and the Clearwater area. Oh, thank you, Rosemary. She just got my book. Thank you. Angela from Vancouver. Hi, Angela. Thank you so much. Patricia, Moreno Valley, California. Iona's in Germany. Hello, Iona. Marzi and I were there last month. It was great. We were in Stuttgart teaching there. It was really nice. That loss of oral tolerance, where does the loss of oral tolerance come from? Where does it come about? The loss of oral tolerance is almost exclusively, unless you get poisoned or something, exclusively controlled by your microbiome. We develop a microbiome over time that is determined by what you eat and what you drink. You keep throwing ding-dongs and ho-hos down there, and you get a microbiome that is garbage. It's got a whole lot of garbage bacteria that's not supposed to be that. I'm sorry, I just remembered. There's people from Australia here. I gave a talk in Australia a few years ago, and I said something about eating ding-dongs and ho-hos, and the whole place went up laughing. They were just uproariously laughing, and I thought, well, okay, there's a great audience. It wasn't that funny, but okay. And I found out at the break what it meant, and I forgot. So sorry. I don't mean to offend anyone in Australia by that. Kim, thanks so much for your comments about how I break things down. That's what the books are about. Please, everyone, buy the books. They're on our website and, of course, Amazon and everywhere else. And I don't think I've ever gotten a check for the Autoimmune Fix. It came out 2 years ago, so none of this is about income for me. It's about people understanding these basic concepts so we can raise healthier kids. So please consider buying the book. If you have it and you really enjoy it, use it buy it as a gift for someone. The holidays are coming up. I'm just going to shamelessly plug this. I don't even have the books here. They're over there, so I can't go get them. But the Autoimmune Fix, and You Can Fix Your Brain. Please give them as gifts. Please think about that for people who you think, if someone's currently suffering from an autoimmune disease or someone that has a family history of autoimmune diseases. So it's the microbiome that builds up to be a more inflammatory microbiome. Remember, there's 10 times more cells in the gut of bacteria than all the cells in the body put together. So that gut, as it becomes more inflammatory, that's why people get celiac disease. That's what most researchers are now thinking, that they cross the line of oral tolerance. Remember, over about a third of the population has the genes for celiac, but only 1% to 4% get celiac disease. So 33% have the gene, about 33%, but only 1 to 4% get the disease because they lose oral tolerance. And the oral tolerance comes from the bad fats that we eat, from the excess sugar that we eat, from the heavy metals in the fish that we eat, the farmed fish, from the plastics, because you store your food in plastic containers and it leaches the phthalates into the food. There's a study that came out recently that I found. They looked at, they took the urine from a few hundred pregnant women, and they measured the amounts of 2 phthalates. Phthalates are chemicals that mold plastic, and so they're in plastic. And they measured 2 chemicals in the urine of phthalates in pregnant women. And then they followed the children born to these women over 6 to 11 years. What did they find? With one chemical, it was 6 points. With the other chemical, it was 7 points. So if a woman was in the highest quarter of that particular chemical, right? So you've got hundreds of women here. Some of them are going to be at the low end. Some of them are going to be just around the middle. Some are just a little over middle, and some are in the higher quarter. Those in the higher quarter, their children, if they had one chemical they were in the higher quarter for, those kids were 6 points lower IQ at 6 to 11 years old. The other chemical, 7 points lower IQ, because mom had those chemicals in her while the brain was developing for baby. I just saw a study that came out recently. They looked at 10 people. They looked in the urine of 10 people. All 10 of them had microplastic in the urine. Everybody has microplastics in their urine now, because these chemicals, they leach into the food. They leach into the water, the tap water. Every person, when they checked their tap water, had microfilaments of plastic in the water. You're drinking the water. Well, of course we've got to drink water. Everybody's got to drink water. Most of you have heard me say a ½ ounce per pound body weight. But this is why you need a water filter now. What kind of water filter? The best one you can afford. Ideally, you want one that has charcoal granulation, a 2-micron filter, and reverse osmosis. That's the ideal. And when you do that, you then have to take minerals, because reverse osmosis takes out some of the minerals. That's not preferred, but there's so much crap in the water, you gotta filter that stuff out. So then you take some extra minerals. But that's the ideal. And if all you can afford is a little Brita that sits, that you pour the tap water into the Brita and it goes to your refrigerator, you get a Brita. It's gonna help. Or you get a more expensive Brita that sits on your counter and it can filter everything. Or you get a more expensive unit that goes under the sink with a separate faucet that comes out. That's where all your drinking water comes from, your cooking water. Or you get the whole house unit, so that means your shower and everywhere else, you're no longer being exposed to all these toxins that we're being exposed to now. So I'm going to scroll down here and see some of the questions that we have. Gabriella says, I was given Roaccutane. I think that's Accutane with a typing error there. I was given Accutane in 2007, later on many doses of antibiotics because of infections. This year I was diagnosed with leaky gut. I lost the question because there's more questions coming in and I can't, oh my God, there's 128 comments below. That's very nice. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I can't get back to that question. I don't know how to scroll back there, so I can't get back to it. So, afterwards, I'll look at it afterwards. Will it stay on Facebook to be able to watch again later? Yes, Graciela, it will. All of the Facebook Lives stay on Facebook. So you'll be able to see them later. And Marzi is posting a couple of things here, like the colostrum powder that I just talked about a minute ago. I'm going to talk about how do you heal the gut of all this damage. Paula's in the house from Alaska. Hi, Paula. Thanks for being here. Phyllis from Casio. Karen Court. Oh, my sister Karen. Hi, honey. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Let's move on down. Phyllis from British Columbia. Jennifer says, thankful for your Autoimmune Fix book and your knowledge. Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you for that. Lynn Johnson, it is a brilliant docuseries. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. I hope everyone will see Betrayal. Angela says Betrayal is amazing. Thank you. Please think about giving it as gifts in the holidays. Give my books and give Betrayal as gifts. There's also the Gluten Summit. That's the first one I did. When you listen to those experts talking about wheat, you just sit back and you go, wow, I didn't know that. That makes a whole lot of sense. Wow. So thanks so much, everyone, for your support here. Melissa says, if so, not sure what to do then. I've been working on my gut microbiome under the care of a naturopath for 2 years now. Haven't been able to move it in the right direction yet. Well, something's missing, Melissa. It could be anything from the air you're breathing. For many people, you go on vacation for a week or two, you come back home, do you have to open the windows to air the house out? If that's true, you got mold. And mold easily can cause problems in your gut, easily. So you're missing something. There's some trigger causing the inflammation in there. And perhaps you just need a little more investigative work. Many of you know that our team at theDr.com deals with, I got that message, honey, thank you. We have a consulting team at theDr.com that you can work with by Zoom or Skype, and we can dial it down for you. We can certainly give it a shot. I'd suggest you try that. Everyone on the team has been trained by me, and if there's ever a problem, they bring me in, because I like being a Sherlock Holmes, and so I like that every once in a while. Brian Metcalf says, have your new book, just started reading it. Thanks, Brian, appreciate that. Mia Jones, Betrayal opened my eyes and mine and put me on the road to healing RA. All right, high five, Mia. Way to go, way to go. And I see Marzi put the link in for Betrayal, the autoimmune disease secret they're not telling you. Thank you, honey. Any chance that, Roderick's asking, any chance that Behçet's or similar autoimmune disease could be related to GI intolerance and might be helped by probiotics? First answer, yes. Second question, yeah. Roderick, the use of probiotics, thinking that we can just throw something else down there and that's going to change it enough. There are some studies that show that it may, but it's so much more comprehensive when you do a deep dive on where is this autoimmune condition coming from? Where is it coming from? You read the Autoimmune Fix, you start asking those kinds of questions. And when you ask those kind of questions and you go on that investigative journey, you find out what's pulling on your chain and where's the inflammation coming from that's causing this condition. Now you also, here's a pearl for you. Just go to Google, a great library in the sky, and type in Behçet's and gluten. And notice how frequently Behçet's can be caused by or fueled by a sensitivity to wheat. And of course, the test to do there is called the wheat zoomer. The wheat zoomer. Linda said, I love that you include electromagnetic. It's critically important, Linda. Every single person who's watching this, turn off your wireless every night when you go to sleep. Get the alarm clock away from your head, meaning off of the nightstand next to the bed. Put it on the other side of the room. You have to stop being exposed to this electromagnetics. You want to sleep better? Stop polluting your brain with electromagnetic pollution. Where I live, if I turn on my wireless to connect, there's a bunch of there will be 14 wirelesses that come up in this area where it's a dense area where I live. And so I'm being bombarded by that all the time, but I certainly turn off my wireless at night because that's the most potent one. It's the closest and the strongest signal. So turn off your wireless at night. Get the alarm clock away from your nightstand. Those are just some basic things. And Bianca, thank you. I've got your message. Thank you so much. Jess, are there any insights on Lyme disease, especially chronic Lyme? Oh, you bet, Jess. There's a new test coming out that's going to rock the world on Lyme disease, and it comes from Vibrant. It's the most comprehensive test ever on Lyme disease. You're going to see some of the mechanisms that are causing this condition for so many people. Melissa said, we also have a very hateful, divisive, deceitful other side of this current administration. You're absolutely right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get too much into politics, but we just have to stop this aggressive, cutthroat way that we're living our lives, because kids are absorbing all of this. Hello, Shirley from Scotland. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Jay Davidson covers Lyme disease quite well, and so does Evan Brand. Yes, they do. I've seen some of their work, and it's really good. Lynn says, shameless plug. Thank you, Lynn. Oh, Melody says, when I'm tempted to eat wheat, I see your face like a guardian angel. Okay, thanks, Melody. That's really cute. Donna says, I had surgery 2 weeks ago. My digestive system is slowed down, I guess, from the drugs. How can I jumpstart? Well, the first thing, Donna, would be to work on the microbiome, which I'm about to talk about. Make sure you include everything that I'm about to talk about here. That will get the ball game going for you. First thing, everyone, of course, ½ ounce of water per pound body weight. Make it the best quality water that you have access to, but a ½ ounce of water per pound body weight. Critically important. Critically important. After that, how do you help to create an environment for an excellent microbiome? Stop throwing gasoline on the fire. What does that mean? Well, if inflammation is pulling on the chain, which eventually breaks, and it's the microbiome that determines when you lose oral tolerance, we need to reduce the inflammation. So the first thing is to identify where's the inflammation coming from. Some of you have heard me talk about the wheat zoomer test, because it zooms in like no other test has done before on sensitivities to wheat. Mayo Clinic talks about the technology of this as a new era in laboratory medicine, like never before. And just like, folks, 25 years ago, it would have taken a room twice the size of the room I'm in, so about 40 by 40, floor to ceiling, full of computers 25 years ago, that have the computing power of this phone. 25 years ago, it would have taken a huge room of computers to do what this phone can do. That technology is available in laboratory medicine. So you want to, if you really want to do a deep dive, you ask your doctors, how old is this technology for the lab test that you're recommending? Well, I don't know. Well, can you find out? And they'll find out it's 20 years old, 25 years old, 18 years old, 15 years old. Doesn't mean they're not valid tests, but there's a new era in laboratory medicine. And you can, if you do a wheat zoomer test, their sensitivity and specificity, which are the markers of accuracy, according to Mayo Clinic, is 97 to 100%. That means every time, right on the money, just about every time. No test has ever had those kinds of numbers before. We've been using the wheat zoomer now for almost 2 years and see remarkable results with it. Well, that laboratory has now come out with a zoomer panel. They've got the dairy zoomer, the egg zoomer, the lectin zoomer. For those of you that have read the book, The Plant Paradox, which is a good book, my problem with the book is that the author says every person has to avoid lectins. That's not true. Every person that has a lectin sensitivity needs to avoid lectins. Well, now there's a test with 97 to 99% accuracy and sensitivity and specificity right on the money every time to tell you if you have a lectin sensitivity. If you have a lectin sensitivity, stop eating lectins because you're throwing gasoline on the fire. Egg zoomer, dairy zoomer, corn zoomer, lectin zoomer, neuro zoomer, and wheat zoomer. 6 zoomers. And they've got a special on it. It's like $2,700 worth of tests. Insurance won't pay for them. Insurance doesn't pay for anything that it doesn't have to. They won't pay for these because this is a new era in laboratory medicine, meaning they haven't done the politics to get insurance to cover this stuff. And they're doing a special right now. I think it's $1,000, something really close to, it's like $1,700 off the cost of it because they just want to get this out for people to understand it. They want to give as much information as they can. Marzi will put a link in here for these tests so that you can check these tests out. But that's how you find out. Marzi just texted and said it's $1,000. Thank you. Thank you, honey. Yeah, so you save $1,700 on this test. You want to find out you have a sensitivity to dairy, to lectins, to eggs, to corn? We had a patient who came back completely negative on the wheat zoomer. And she was a celiac, and she wasn't doing very well. And Michelle Ross, our director of clinical services, saw this person on Skype. And she came to us because she was completely wheat-free and she wasn't doing very well. And we did the wheat zoomer. It came back squeaky clean, meaning she was doing a really good job of not having any exposure to wheat, meaning her cosmetics and her shampoo and her candies or medications or vitamins. By the way, we now know that probiotics often have wheat in them, unfortunately. We'll talk about that later. There was a study published a couple of months ago that talked about a high percentage of people, high percentage of products, probiotic products, have wheat in them. I think it was 30 or 40% of them. It was startling. So this person, completely wheat-free, wheat zoomer completely negative, but suffering terribly, her corn zoomer was off the charts. And corn is one of those foods that celiacs eat because it's not toxic gluten. But for this person, it was toxic gluten. And we would never have known that if we hadn't have done the corn zoomer. Never would have known it. So that was a really good example for me to see. My jaw dropped when I saw those test results comparing, because the wheat zoomer was clean. Oh, way to go. You've done a good job. Well, I feel terrible, right? And well, here's why. Because she was eating these gluten-free products that were causing that problem. So that's the zoomer package. And Marzi will put the link in there for it for you guys. So the first thing in building a healthier microbiome is stop throwing gasoline on the fire. You have to find out what is it that I'm eating or drinking that's contributing to this inflammation that over time has built this microbiome, this environment of thousands and thousands of different species of bacteria, where I have too much of this one, not enough of this one, way too much of this one, medium amounts of this one, and where you're just out of balance. What's triggering that? And what you find is that if you follow this protocol that I'm giving you, you're going to do a whole lot better. So here it comes. First thing, stop throwing gasoline on the fire and work with your doctor. And if you feel your doctor's not quite being competent enough about it, come work with our team. Read my books, you'll understand a whole lot about it, and work with our clinical services team to find out how are you throwing inflammatory foods down there. What are those inflammatory foods? That's the first thing. Second thing, if you have an autoimmune condition or you're concerned about an autoimmune condition, you have intestinal permeability. By definition, autoimmune diseases require a trilogy. You have to have the gene for that particular disease. You have to have an offending trigger, like with celiac disease, it's wheat or corn or other things, and a loss of the barrier of the intestines, the cheesecloth of the intestines. That's intestinal permeability or the leaky gut. So anyone that has intestinal permeability, by definition, you have an environment in your gut that's inflammatory. by definition. So you have to, with avoiding throwing the gasoline on the fire, you have to change this environment that's in your gut, this ratio of those thousands of bacteria that are in there. And you don't do that overnight. You know, I'll give you the protocol, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Christine says, what about natural spring water straight from the flow? Depends on what's in the spring, Christine. You know, the idea of natural spring water is great, but I don't know many places in the country where the water is guaranteed to be safe. There are a few maybe, but not many. Okay, so that's the first thing, is to identify the foods that you're sensitive to, so you stop throwing gasoline on the fire. Second thing, some of you have heard me talk about this in England, and this is from my friends, Doctors Michael Ash and Anthony Hayes. They call it stewed apples. We call it applesauce. And what you do is take 4 or 5 apples, organic, wash them, don't peel them, slice them, get rid of the seeds, and dice them into like spoon-sized pieces, throw them in a pot, add water to about, so this is the apples, the height of the apples, add water to about 1/3 the height of the apples, put a little cinnamon in there, maybe a couple of raisins if you got kids and they like it a little sweeter, turn it on high, wait 5 to 8 minutes, look in the pot. When you see a shine on the skin of the apples, turn off the heat, it's done. The shine means the pectin in the apple has been released, meaning it's easier for your gut microbiota to access the pectin. The pectin feeds something in your gut called intestinal alkaline phosphatase. It's a hormone that your gut makes that has a lot of benefits in the intestinal environment. Lowers cholesterol, blood cholesterol, lowers triglycerides, increases the good bacteria, fights the bad bacteria, heals intestinal permeability, turns the genes on to heal intestinal permeability, reduces metabolic endotoxemia by 73%. That's huge, huge. What that means, metabolic endotoxemia, the end stage of that is sepsis. That's what old people die of in hospitals often, is sepsis. Over 200,000 people a year die from sepsis in this country. And so you make this applesauce and you have 3-4 tablespoons a day, every day. It has to be fresh. Commercial stuff won't do it. And you just have some applesauce every day. Have your kids make it with you so they have some every day. It's going to increase intestinal alkaline phosphatase, a really good guy in your gut that has so many healing properties to it. This is why an apple a day keeps the doctor away. This is why. It really does. But it's because it increases IAP. And IAP has all of these benefits. Just Google intestinal alkaline phosphatase. It'll be a little geeky, but you'll do an OMG. Oh, look at this. And you just eat 3-4 tablespoons of applesauce a day, fresh applesauce. You know, I make some that last 3-4 days usually, and then I make some more. You know, you just buy some apples. Braeburn apples, I'm told, are the best, but I buy whatever apples are available that are organic. And, you know, there's some nice apples there that I like Galas or something, but they're not organic. I'll buy something else that is organic. And if they're like green apples, I don't like green apples too much. So I'll put a little honey in there if there's green apples, you know, if I'm making it with green apples, just to sweeten it up a little bit. So you'll find, you know, which apples you like, but you just have a little applesauce every day. That's the first step. The second step, in terms of nutrients or supplements to heal the gut, to create this healthy environment in your gut, there are so many nutrients that are of value to heal intestinal permeability and contribute to building a good microbiome. There are so many, and this is by no means a complete list. But, you know, and people aren't going to open 10, 15, 20 bottles a day, right? So I say to people, Mrs. Patient, will you take 1 pack a day? 1 pack of vitamins. There's 6 pills in there, but it's 1 pack. Can you take 1 pack a day? They say, yeah, I can take 1 pack a day. That's easy. Okay, good. Take 1 pack a day. They're called the gluten sensitivity packs. I put these together because each nutrient in there has a number of research papers that talk about how it helps to heal the gut and create a healthier environment in the gut. So you take the gluten sensitivity packs, 1 pack a day if you're 150 pounds or less, 1 pack twice a day if you're 151 pounds or more. And that's a, you know, if you're 160 pounds and you only want to take 1 pack a day, it's going to be better than none, right? But they really do work. And how long do you do that for? Long-term maintenance on this one. The things I'm giving you today are long-term maintenance. 1 pack a day, it gives you plenty of minerals and good nutrients. The next thing is called GS Immuno Restore. And it's called Immuno Restore because it restores the strength of the immune system in your gut. What is it? It's the purest colostrum that I know of on the market. Colostrum is the first 3 to 5 days of mother's milk. And the colostrum from cows has the exact same proteins and peptides as the colostrum in human breast milk. And the toxic proteins of cow's milk products, some people are sensitive to dairy, there's some toxic stuff to those people. The toxic compounds called caseins in this colostrum is 0.6%. It is so low. I say to every patient who says, well, doc, I've got a dairy sensitivity. I say, okay, I'm going to recommend you get 1 can of this stuff, and it's 1 scoop a day. Try it. And as long as you notice that you don't have any bloating, you don't have any gas, you don't feel bad, take 1 scoop a day for 2 months, because nothing turns on the genes to heal and rebuild healthier microbiomes than colostrum. Nothing on the planet. This is the most potent of compounds to build a healthy gut. And this particular colostrum, this exact colostrum, is licensed by 3 countries in Africa, by the governments, as the treatment of choice that they endorse for HIV. You're diagnosed with HIV, the doctors are encouraged to recommend this colostrum, this exact colostrum, the GS Immuno Restore. It's another, you know, it's shipped over there, so it doesn't have the GS Immuno Restore name on it, but it's the exact same colostrum, the exact same product. So you take the GS sensitivity packs, you take the GS Immuno Restore, you make your applesauce, and once you've tested positive for gluten sensitivity by the wheat Zoomer test or a wheat sensitivity, you take the E3 Advanced Plus. Those are the digestive enzymes that protect you not just from any inadvertent exposures to wheat, but any of the 8 top allergens, dairy and nuts and fish and soy and corn. It breaks down all of those in 60 to 90 minutes, completely. 99% full degradation within 60 to 90 minutes. That's E3 Advanced Plus. You take it before you eat, not during the meal. Most enzymes you take during a meal. This one you take beforehand, so nothing gets out of the stomach into the small intestine that hasn't been broken down. So that's the protocol that will help create a healthy environment for you and a strong gut, a strong microbiome. Most important of all of it is stop throwing gasoline on the fire. You have to find out, how am I throwing gasoline on my fire? And if you need some coaching with that, find a good functional medicine practitioner. If your doctor, if you've worked with this doctor and you've made some headway, but you're not quite there completely and they're kind of at a standstill, bring another person on the team. You might want to have a consult with our consultation department. And sometimes some of those patients will have their docs talk with our consultants while the patient's there. So the patient and the doc get on the line together and go through these tests that we recommend and why these tests and what they'll tell us, and then the doc can sign off on it. So it's up to you. Okay, folks, it's been an hour. It's really a pleasure to be with you all. Over the next few days, I'll go through all the questions. I have to shoot off to a meeting here now, so I can't go through any of them now. I'll look at them later. Thank you so very much for joining, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.